Somewhere there is a child taking their first steps. Two small feet wobbling across a living room floor. A coffee table for balance. A parent crouched a few feet away. Arms open, saying the child's name, like it's the most important word ever spoken. The child lets go of the table. One step. Two. A fall. Laughter. The whole room lighting up. That child was you. It was one of the most thrilling days of your entire life. Your first untethered movement through the world. And you remember none of it. Not the floor, not the arms, not a single second. In fact, try to find your earliest memory right now. Reach as far back as you can. Whatever you land on, it almost certainly happens after your 3rd birthday. Everything before that, years of learning to walk, to talk, to love the people who raised you, is gone. You spent the most important years of your life building a human being, and you weren't invited to remember any of it. So where did it all go? You'd think the answer is obvious. You were a baby. Babies are simple. Nothing much was happening up there, so there was nothing worth saving. It isn't that, because here's the contradiction. Those early years are when you learned more, faster than you ever will again. Your first language, how to recognize faces, how gravity works, the difference between safe and afraid. A 2-year-old's brain is a roaring furnace of learning. So the problem was never that nothing was happening. The problem is that almost none of it was kept. Scientists have a name for this. They call it childhood amnesia, sometimes infantile amnesia. A blanket of forgetting that covers roughly the first 3 to 4 years of every human life. And it is so universal, so reliable, that it's one of the few things nearly every person on Earth has in common. We all forgot the same chapter of our own story. Now, you might assume the memories were never made in the first place, that a baby's brain simply can't record. But watch a small child, and that explanation falls apart too. Ask a 3-year-old what they did last week, and they'll tell you. The trip to the zoo, the dog that scared them. They have memories. Vivid ones. A psychologist named Carol Peterson spent years tracking exactly this. She'd record young children describing their early memories, then come back years later and ask the same children, now older, about those same events. And one by one, the memories disappeared. The children who once described those moments in detail, as they grew towards 7, 8, 9 years old, simply lost them. The memories were there, and then they weren't. So this isn't a story about a brain that couldn't record. It's a story about a brain that recorded and then erased. Which raises a far more unsettling question. Why would a brain delete its own childhood on purpose? Here is where it gets strange. And here is the turn that flips this from a quirk into something much bigger. The forgetting might be the price of the growing. Think about where memories live. A big part of the work happens in a small, curved structure deep in your brain called the hippocampus, your memory's filing system, the part that takes a moment and turns it into something you can keep. In an adult, it's relatively stable, but in a baby, the hippocampus is a construction site. It is exploding with new brain cells, growing at a speed it will never match again. And that growth may come at a cost. A pair of neuroscientists, Paul Frankland and Josselyn, tested this in mice. They found that when the infant brain pumps out floods of new neurons, new cells wiring themselves into the memory system, that very process seems to disrupt the memories already stored there. Imagine trying to keep an old photograph intact while constantly rebuilding the shelf it sits on. The new cells, muscling into the network, scramble the old connections. When they slowed that flood of new neurons down, the young mice held on to their memories longer. When they sped it up in older mice, the memories faded. So the leading idea is this. The same explosive growth that was building your mind was quietly overwriting your earliest memories as it went. You didn't lose your childhood because your brain was weak. You lost it because your brain was working so hard to become itself. But neurons aren't the only thing missing in those early years. Something else hadn't arrived yet. Words. Most of your memories are wrapped in language. You don't just remember an event, You remember the story of it, the words you'd use to tell it. But for the first years of your life, you had almost no language at all. And researchers have found that how children learn to talk about their experiences, whether a parent asks them rich questions, helps them put moments into words, shapes how far back their memories will one day reach. A memory you have no words for is a memory with nothing to hold on to. And underneath even that, one more piece was missing. You, not your body, you. The sense of a self that things are happening to. A continuous I that walks from yesterday into today and on into tomorrow. That sense doesn't switch on at birth. It assembles slowly over those same early years. And it's hard to file a memory under things that happened to me when the me is still being built. There was experience in there. There just wasn't yet a fully formed someone for it to happen to. So for a long time, the story seemed settled. The memories are gone, overwritten and washed away. Except that might not be the whole truth. Because some researchers now argue the memories may not be destroyed at all, just locked. Recent work peering into the brains of infants has begun to suggest that the baby hippocampus may be encoding memories after all, laying them down, even if the grown-up mind can no longer find a key to open them. If that holds up, then childhood amnesia isn't a story of erasing, it's a story of losing the password. The room is still there, you just can't get the door open anymore. Sit with that for a second. Somewhere, possibly, behind a door you can't reach, are the faces of people leaning over your crib. The first time you understood a word. The feeling of being carried. And here is where this stops being about babies and starts being about you. The you reading this right now. Because you are still doing it. Not as dramatically, but you are forgetting your life at a rate that would frighten you if you watched it happen. That ordinary Tuesday 3 years ago is already gone. The hundreds of small conversations, meals, walks, evenings that made up last year, most of them have quietly slipped away, exactly the way your second birthday did. Your mind has never kept everything. It keeps the highlights, the shocks, the things you put into words and told someone else. The rest dissolves. You are, gently and constantly, a creature built to forget. Your earliest years are just the most honest proof of it. But maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe forgetting is what makes you light enough to keep going. A mind that saved every single moment in full forever might never be able to move. Forgetting is what lets the important things rise to the surface. It's not a flaw in the system. It might be the whole point. So come back to that living room, the wobbling feet, the open arms, the first untethered step you will never, ever remember taking. You used to think that memory was simply lost, that nothing was there. Now you know the truth is stranger. That moment may have been recorded by a brain too busy building you to keep it. It may even still be in there, behind a door you no longer have the key to. You don't remember the day you learned to walk, but you've been walking ever since. That's the thing about your earliest years. You don't keep the memory, you become it. The first years of your life are the foundation of everything you are. And foundations are the part of the house no one ever sees again. So tonight, before this moment slips away too, ask yourself something. If your mind is always quietly forgetting, which of today's moments are you going to bother to keep? The more you learn about being human, the stranger it gets. Because after all, we're still the same old ape. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.